Welcome back. We're almost done with this tutorial volume. What we need to do now is bring in all those outside assets that we modeled in separate scenes. We need to import those things, converge them into this scene, and start to basically figure out their final placement and do some cleanup, some touching up here, and get this done. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go and start importing all this stuff that we need. So the first thing I'm going to import is the HDTV. So I'm going to go up to File, Import. And the HDTV, if you remember, it was an OBJ file, so I'm going to go ahead and import that in. Okay, we've got lots of options here. I'm going to make sure that the most important option is probably to import as editable poly. Okay, and this is very important as well, the flip ZY axis. Depending on where this OBJ is coming from, you may have to check this on or off. I'm going to go ahead and check it on, hit import, and there we go, the TV came in correctly. So there's our TV. I'm going to rotate it here 180 degrees. I'm not going to worry about scaling it or doing anything to it for now. I'm going to leave it alone for the moment. Now this big purple box thing here was the placeholder we used for the piece of furniture right there. Remember that? Well, we no longer need the placeholder because we've already completed that piece of furniture, so I'll just delete it. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to keep importing here. Next thing we're going to import is, if you remember, this miscellaneous electronic object that we modeled before. I'm going to go ahead and import that guy in. And there he is. Obviously all this stuff is too big for this scene, but that's okay. We're going to go ahead and fix that all in a moment. Next thing I'm going to import in is my Blu-ray player. So I'll go ahead and import that. Now you notice it's not here. That's because I must have placed it in the export folder, which is the default folder. So it's very important to place everything in a consistent folder or consistent directory. That way it's just easier to find stuff and you don't have to waste extra time tracking stuff down and finding it wherever it might be. Okay, so there's the Blu-ray player. Let's also bring in the books. We need to bring in those books. So the books are not an OBJ. They're actually a container, if you remember. So what we need to do is go up to Tools, go to the Containers menu, and hit Inherit Container. Once we do that, Max wants us to basically locate the file, and if you remember, the file is this one, Container Books. Again, can't stress enough the importance of naming stuff correctly so it's easier to find later. So here's our books. Now you notice that they're turned the wrong way, so I'll just turn them 180 degrees this way. Now you'll notice that our little box icon has the flaps closed. That's actually very important. You see, when you create a container by default, it's locked. So that when someone, whether it's you or someone else on your 3D team in your studio, opens up this container file, it'll be locked. See, so it's closed. What this does is it protects the file from being accidentally edited. So say if you were modeling something and you sent your model to a texture artist to UV map in texture, and you don't want him messing around with the modeling or anything, you can go ahead and lock this down. He won't be able to edit the object at all, which means he wouldn't be able to texture it anyway. But at least he could look at it, and when he's ready to work, he can maybe ask you for permission, and if you're nice, you'll let him work on it. Or maybe not, depending on how mean you are. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to unlock this, and it's going to be pretty easy to do this. I'm just going to go over here to this option that says Make All Content Unique over here in the Modify tab. And when I hit that, you'll notice that the box icon opens its flaps. So now it's open. Now I can actually select the individual objects. But I don't want these objects to be part of a container. I want all this stuff to be removed from a container. So what I'm going to do is hit the Remove button over here. That's going to open up a list here of all the objects inside that container. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to select all of the objects here from book 1 all the way to 38 and hit Remove. And it looks like nothing happened, but now if I take the container and move it, you'll notice that nothing moves with it. Essentially, this container is now empty and doesn't have anything inside it. I took the books out. So I'll delete that container and my books remain, and there we go. Okay? Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and import again. This time I'm going to go back to my import folder over here. And the next thing I'm going to import in is my picture frames. I need to bring in the picture frame for the table. Import that. You notice that this one imported with the wrong orientation. That's because I must have selected different import options when I exported it out. Okay, so I'll go to import again. I'll import that same object. This time I'm going to check off the flip ZY axis. Import it again. This time comes in correctly. So I'll just rotate this. Again, it's important to use consistent export and import options so this kind of stuff doesn't occur. But that's okay. It's good. Once you see a problem, I'll show you how to fix it, and that's going to help you be better prepared for later on when you're on your own. So I'm just importing in the picture frame for the wall. Remember that one? Rotate that 90 degrees. The pivot point is way off on that one, so I'll fix that later. I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'm going to import another one. This time I'm going to import the DVD case. Go ahead and import that guy in. And there it is. And next I'm going to go ahead and import the clock. If you remember, the clock was also a container. So I'll go to Tools, Containers, Inherit Container. And this time I'll bring in the clock. Now the clock I'm not going to remove from the container because I want the clock to remain in the container. It just makes it easier to move the clock around, orient it, scale it, stuff like that, because it's made up of a bunch of different pieces. Okay, so I'm going to leave that alone. Alright, so now that I went ahead and I imported all this stuff in, I'm going to go ahead and end this video here. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start to scale this stuff down. We're going to start to position it and get the final look of our scene going here. So we'll do that next.